If Lucifer Morningstar killed Vox, the entire situation plays out fast, controlled, and one-sided, because the gap between them is not something Vox can bridge with preparation or strategy. Vox looks powerful because he controls media, screens, and information flow across hell. And that gives him reach, influence, and leverage over other demons. But Lucifer operates on a completely different level, where influence does not matter, attention does not matter, and systems do not matter, so the moment they interact directly, Vox loses his biggest advantage before the fight even starts. Vox would be in his tower as usual, surrounded by screens, monitoring everything, tracking conversations, watching movements from other overlords, managing deals in real time, fully locked into his network. Then, a small issue appears. One screen flickers, a delay in audio. Something minor that he ignores at first, because his system is large and minor glitches happen. But then it spreads. More screens begin to lag, feeds stop syncing properly, visuals distort, and now it becomes clear that this is not random. Vox tries to fix it by pushing more power into the system, increasing output, rerouting signals, attempting to stabilize everything quickly. But the response is off. Commands are slower, systems are not reacting correctly, and that is when he starts paying full attention. Then he sees Lucifer standing inside the room physically, not through a feed, not through a camera, but actually present. And that alone breaks Vox's normal expectations, because nothing in his system detected that entry. No alerts triggered, no warnings appeared, which means his control layer just failed completely. Vox still keeps his composure, because that is how he operates. He talks. He frames the situation like a negotiation, like something he can still manage. He smiles, keeps his tone controlled, tries to assert presence, but Lucifer is not there for any kind of discussion. Vox then expands his domain, filling the room with screens, projecting himself everywhere, turning the space into his own environment where he normally has full control. This is where he dominates other demons, overwhelming them with input and influence. But Lucifer does not react. He simply walks forward. No hesitation, no resistance. And that is the first clear sign that Vox's abilities are not working the way they should. Vox notices his signals are still active, everything is running, but none of it is affecting Lucifer. So he escalates. He pushes full output, stacking layers of influence, distortion, direct control attempts, everything he has at once, but nothing changes. Lucifer keeps moving closer, and now Vox shifts from confident to analytical. Because this situation does not match any previous experience, he tries cutting parts of his system to isolate the issue, shutting down sections, resetting connections, attempting to remove whatever interference is present. But when the system comes back online, Lucifer is still there and even closer, which confirms this is not a technical failure. It is a hierarchy issue, where Lucifer simply overrides him by existing at a higher level. Vox then commits fully, channeling every resource into one final attempt. Every screen, every wire, every signal focused into a single push. This is his maximum output, the peak of his ability. And if this does not work, there is nothing left for him to use. Lucifer stops, looks directly at him, and speaks once in a calm and controlled tone, and everything Vox controls shuts down instantly. Not destroyed, not damaged. Just overridden, like a higher authority command took priority over all of Vox's systems. Vox tries to reconnect, tries to regain access, tries to push commands through again. But nothing responds. And for the first time he has no signal, no voice, no presence, which completely strips away his identity because everything he is depends on being connected. Lucifer does not extend the moment. He steps forward and ends Vox immediately. No speech, no explanation, just a clean and final action. And the aftermath becomes the real impact of this event. Because Vox is not just an overlord, he is infrastructure. He controls the flow of information across hell. So removing him creates a massive gap that cannot be filled quickly. The V's collapse almost instantly. Valentino loses stability without Vox managing structure and coordination, which leads to more reckless decisions and uncontrolled actions. While Velvet attempts to handle the situation by maintaining image and trying to control the narrative, but she does not have the same reach or technical control, so their influence drops rapidly. Other overlords recognize the gap and begin moving in. Territory disputes increase, deals collapse, alliances shift, and the entire information network becomes fragmented. Smaller groups attempt to rebuild parts of the system, but none of them can replicate Vox's centralized control, which makes hell more chaotic and less efficient overall. And at the same time, Lucifer sends a clear message through this action. He does not need to remove Vox, so choosing to do it shows that all power in hell operates under his authority. Some overlords respond by becoming more cautious and avoiding attention, while others react by trying to expand faster before they become targets, which creates additional conflict and instability. And Lucifer does not step in to stabilize anything, because the chaos works in his favor. It exposes ambition and reveals threats, making it easier to identify who might challenge him in the future. So killing Vox is not just a removal of a single figure. It sets off a chain reaction that reshapes how power operates across hell. And when the fight itself is broken down clearly, Vox relies on systems, networks, and attention to scale his power, while Lucifer overrides systems entirely and does not rely on external factors. Vox needs time to build influence and control, while Lucifer acts instantly without preparation. Vox's strength depends on structure, while Lucifer exists above structure, which is why there is no realistic scenario where Vox wins unless Lucifer chooses to allow it. And there is no reason for Lucifer to allow that, so the outcome remains the same every time. A fast execution, followed by long-lasting consequences. And the bigger question becomes whether Vox understood the risk and continued pushing anyway, or if he believed his control over information made him untouchable until the moment everything shut down, and he realized too late that he was never in control. Because if he did see it coming, then every move he made leading up to that moment becomes a calculated risk rather than a mistake. And that shifts how you interpret his character entirely. Was he confident, or was he overestimating his position? And if you look at how he operates, constantly expanding influence, constantly inserting himself into every layer of Hell's communication, it suggests he believed growth equaled safety. But against someone like Lucifer, growth just makes you more visible, and visibility makes you easier to target. Which means Vox's entire strategy might have guaranteed this outcome from the start. And that adds another layer to the situation, because it means this was not just a clash, it was an inevitable result of how both characters function. One expands to gain control, the other removes anything that grows too large. And when those two paths intersect, the result is always the same. Vox gets erased, the system collapses, and Hell shifts into a more chaotic state until a new balance forms. But that balance will always exist under Lucifer's authority, because nothing that replaces Vox will operate outside of that. And anyone who tries to reach that level again will be watched closely, which creates a cycle where power rises, gets noticed, and then gets cut down if it crosses the line, making Vox's death not just an event, but a rule being enforced. And that rule shapes everything that comes after it, from how overlords expand to how alliances are formed, to how information is controlled moving forward. And once that rule is clear, every major player in Hell has to adjust or risk the same outcome. So the real impact of Lucifer killing Vox is not just the removal of one character, but the reset of the entire power structure, and the reminder that no matter how much control you build, there is always something above it that does not need to play by your rules, and once that is proven publicly, it changes how everyone operates permanently. So the question stays open. Did Vox believe he could reach a level where Lucifer would leave him alone, or did he think he could eventually challenge that authority and win? Because either way, the result shows that belief was wrong, and that mistake cost him everything in the fastest way possible. So, if you were in Vox's position, with the same abilities and knowledge, would you still push for more control, or would you stay just under the level where someone like Lucifer decides you have become a problem?